Go! Go!
Coming! I need more pressure!
It's on fire! Whole thing's on fire! All of it's on fire! Hey!
There's a spy?
Really could have used your help out there.
How'd it go?
Really bad, actually. Really bad.
On ship.
What'd you do to the droid?
What'd you do to the Falcon?
Falcon's a lot better shape than he is.
BB-8's not on fire.
What's left of him isn't on fire.
Tell me what happened.
You tell me first.
You know what you are?
What?
You're difficult. Really difficult.
You-
You're a difficult man.
You are... Ray.
Finn. Oh, you made it back.
Yeah, barely.
So,
Look at you.
bad mood.
You're a mess.
Him.
Always.
Welcome, everyone, from across the universe to the Wampa's Lair podcast. Star Wars is for everyone, so pull up a chair, get comfortable, and join the conversation with your hosts, Carl LeClaire and Jason Hunt, here in the Wampa's Lair.
Wampa Time. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Wampa's Lair podcast. This is episode number 380. It's Wampa Time. I'm, as always, one of your hosts, Jason Hunt, and with me, the Jason to my Carl, we've got Carl LeClaire.
Oh my god, I love Jar Jar!
And Empire is the only perfect movie in existence.
Wow, you're annoying. Oh, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Carl?
Oh, doing well. Doing well. We are just a few days away from my favorite national holiday. Star Wars Day. Oh my goodness. I love how big Star Wars Day has kind of become too, even in pop culture, right? Like people, you see so many people kind of responding to it now, and I love it that most years I'll even get people like family members, even friends I haven't talked to in a while, like shooting me like a happy Star Wars Day message, and I freaking love it.
It's pretty awesome. I'm actually very excited for this year. Star Wars Day is something that, I enjoy, but it's not something I necessarily look forward to as much. But this year, with everything going on, I'm like, I need Star Wars Day. I'm very excited.
I am too, and I'm with you. I think for us Star Wars fans, especially, we have the luxury of having something like Star Wars to help keep us afloat with the craziness going on in the world around us. So we have some fun ways to celebrate Star Wars Day for hopefully all of you starting next week. We're going to share all the details about that towards the end of the episode. So we've got a couple of fun things that you'll be able to participate in every day starting Monday. Hopefully things that'll be really fun for you. We have more details about the musical May coming at you starting next week as well. And just excited to share all of those things with you. But like we said last week, we wanted to answer some of the questions you all might have for us. So, we've been doing this show a long time, so we kind of want to do just kind of like a fun Q&A thing where you guys could ask us questions about either who we are as people or just, obviously our takes on Star Wars and the Star Wars fan community. And something I actually wanted to just mention before we hop into all of that stuff was just wanted to remind folks, in case you were wondering if maybe you were away from the show for a bit and you missed this announcement. Obviously our good friend Katie has decided not to come back to the show. And I, noted, obviously lately she's been guesting on a few other podcasts, especially with her beloved Maul being back in Star Wars. And Katie and I actually had an hour and a half conversation on the phone just a few days ago, just kind of catching up about life. Katie is still very good friends with us. And for those of you wondering, why isn't she back on your show? Well, she was really good friends with some of the folks that asked her to be on those other shows. And of course, people are going to be reaching out to her right now. She's a Maul expert.
Don't worry.
Yes.
On.
Exactly. And so I was talking to her about, coming on to talk about, Maul's return a little bit later on once the whole Siege of Mandalore's over. And she's definitely going to come on to join us about that. But we do intend to do an entire musical month coming up in May. So we're going to kind of put that on the back burner till the end of May anyway. So But do expect Katie to be back. I love that she's been on other shows right now. I think it's great that she's excited to talk about this stuff again. And yeah, Katie's just a very good friend. It was so good catching up with her the other day, especially in these crazy times, just to check in on each other. And so I just wanted to make that a reminder announcement in case you kind of missed the memo from last month when we kind of talked about this. But there is obviously in no way, shape, or form any bad blood between us and Katie. So
No.
so we look forward to having her back, sometime in the next few weeks to talk about Maul. But she reminded me when we were talking the other day that she just doesn't want to be a regular Star Wars podcasting host right now at anywhere. So she's responded to a few people's requests, and she's responded to ours as well, but it's just going to be a little bit later. So
yeah, well, we want to finish our planned musical May, and then as soon as that's over, we're talking Clone Wars, because Carl and I want to talk about it too. It's not like you guys are just going, God, I wish they'd talk about Clone Wars. No, we really want to talk about it too. So as soon as the musical May is done, we're talking Siege of Mandalore and the Clone Wars. So, yeah, look forward to that.
Absolutely. So, right, like we don't have a matchup or a poll this week because we have your questions. Though that's what we're using.
Yes.
And once again, for the month of May, just like we kind of did in the month of March with the This Is Madness tournament, we won't be doing polls or matchups in May. But again, we have lots of interactive ways for you to stay involved the entire month. So, yes, I can't wait to share those with you towards the end of the episode.
We'll all the details, and it's good stuff, folks. Just wait.
Oh, yes, indeed. Jason, so what are some of the questions that they asked of us? I'm excited to respond to some of these.
Absolutely. Well, there's some really fun ones in here, but I'm going to go ahead and start with something that's a little bit deeper from our good buddy Sartaj, Sartaj Singh, who says, since you've started podcasting, what's the one thing you've changed your mind about when it comes to Star Wars? Yeah, we're going to start off, a little bit more difficult first. I'll go ahead and go first.
Great.
To be honest, one of the things I've really changed my mind about is if you go back and listen to older episodes where we kind of debate and discuss the proper watching order, I was always a big proponent of chronological order. But I think over the last couple years, with the sequel trilogy and everything going on involved and kind of how things keep stacking and building on each other within the story, I've come back around to the release order way of watching things. Now, once you've seen it all in release order for the first time, then I think it's totally fine to just watch everything in chronological order after that. In fact, I would prefer that. But if you're just introducing somebody, I think release order is probably the best because things build on themselves in such a way that it makes more sense. And because things get denser as you move along otherwise. So,
yeah. I cool. I didn't realize that you changed that perspective. So I like that.
We haven't had a chance to talk about it much.
Yeah, no. Why would we? Yeah, no, that's always what I've said is specifically for, a newcomer is I always introduce people to it in release order. I think it just makes the most sense. But yeah, then it's really fun, I think, to just start changing it up. Like, there's the machete order, there's derivatives of the machete order. I think there's so many fun ways to watch it. Now, for anybody that obviously sees our Twitter, just this past week, I decided to do the whole sequel trilogy 3 days in a row. I don't have the attention span to marathon movies. I haven't in a very long time. At least not in any way that I'd be able to actually watch them. And that was the thing, is I wanted to really pay attention to each of the movies. And I knew I couldn't do that 3 in a row. So I did, 7, 8, and 9 over 3 days in a row. And I had such a fun time watching the sequel trilogy kind of all in a row like that and found that it worked actually really well together. Not, it's not perfect, but nothing is. But yeah, cool. I didn't realize that you changed. So I like that.
What about you, Carl?
I I mean, the only thing that really pops out right now, and it is more recent, is definitely my opinion of Last Jedi has really changed a lot in the last 2 years. Right? Like, I know I was very critical of the movie for a long time, sometimes annoyingly so, as some of my friends could probably attest to. But I've really, really come to love that movie. So I think that's, for me, the biggest thing that's changed as of recently. And I know that I love Sartaj's question, right? Like, I'm trying to think of it in a big, like, existential way, because he, is asking about since we started podcasting. And like, there's a lot of things I've learned from you, but just thinking about what has actually changed though, like something that's very objectively changed for me, it's my view of Last Jedi. Like, it's so funny when I watched it today with just the music only version, which was so much fun. I would love it if they did that with the other movies. But honestly, Last Jedi, I easily put it as a tie between that and Episode 9 for my favorite of the sequel trilogy. And I also put it above every other Star Wars Disney movie except Solo, and again, I would tie it with Rise of Skywalker, but I like it more than Rogue One. I like it more than Force Awakens. I think it's a phenomenal movie, and it makes me extra excited that, hopefully Rian Johnson does get his own trilogy, because I think the more I watch that movie, the more I realize how beautifully pure Star Wars it is. And I think the thing that's made me come around the most on it is that I've really come to appreciate how Luke was treated, right? I think that's still people's biggest hang up, and that's understandable. But the reason, so when I was watching it today, just using the music version, the music that plays when Luke is telling Rey about the first time he tells her about what happened to Ben, and the music that's playing in there is so tragic. It's so string heavy. It's very much like telling you like a broken-hearted story. And it honestly made me think a lot of the vibe from Episode 3 in the sense of like how everything fell apart. And to me, it makes perfect sense that Luke is in this headspace, because if Luke is just the same old cheery guy that he was all through the originals, we wouldn't need Rey. Like, we don't need a new hero if our old hero just comes back and fixes everything. And that's not the point of the sequel trilogy. So I think it makes sense. And even now that we know Palpatine's the one who was behind everything with Snoke, to me it makes perfect sense that Palpatine knows the only way to take power back is to break up Luke and Ben, right? In the same way that he manipulated Anakin and, created this wedge between his relationship with Obi-Wan and also with Padme. He creates this wedge. He corrupts the relationship with Luke. And how do you beat Luke, right? It's pretty clear that the Emperor still doesn't think he can actually beat him. Snoke doesn't believe he can actually beat Luke toe-to-toe. So how do you do that? You crush his heart. You crush the spirit. And that's exactly what happened to Luke, right? That's why he's on Octo out of the fight, is because his spirit has been crushed. And I think that makes perfect sense in the story we're getting. And it provides him to have an arc. He's not just the same character. So all that said, I mean, and everything else in it, I've just loved more and more and more. So yeah, definitely that's a long explanation to say that I've really come to love Last Jedi. So,
it's weird though, because over the years, I think things just sort of have a tendency through our discussions to kind of evolve.
Yeah.
Based on what we're talking about and how deep we go into topics and things like that. So it's just an interesting thing, and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint because we've been doing this for 8.5 years,
Yeah.
But thank you so much for that question, Sartaj. We got a message on Facebook from Joseph Singleton, who asks, if you could train under any Jedi Master, who would it be and why?
I know the answer to this one.
What?
Qui-Gon Jinn. And it's changed. Yeah, it's changed. I would say it could change on any given day. But to me, Qui-Gon is the pinnacle of the Jedi at their height, but he's separate from the Council. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's something much more. The way he's attuned to the living force makes me feel like you could have real, honest conversations with him about anything, and even things that might go contrary to the Jedi code, and he'd be willing to listen and help reshape things with you. And that's what I really like about him. He's well aware of the history and tradition of the Jedi, obviously still cherishes it and holds it as something very, very special, but isn't afraid to throw things aside when they're no longer useful or in tune with the living force. So I just feel like Qui-Gon would really provide that deep spiritual connectedness that the Jedi are supposed to embody. And he is a pretty great duelist because he trained under Dooku. So I wouldn't mind learning how to fight from him as well.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you for basically the same reasons. You know, he's a pretty good duelist. He trained Obi-Wan Kenobi, for goodness sake. And who wouldn't want to be, you know, space brothers with Obi-Wan? But you know, that and the fact that the way that he looks at the spiritual way that he looks at the Force really appeals to me as well. And so the way he sees things and the way he teaches and that sort of thing really, really appeals to me. So yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn, definitely. We'll see though. We're going to get a bunch of new Jedi here coming up in a few months with the High Order, you know, or the High Republic. So I'm curious to see what new Jedi we get and if anybody will be on the level of Qui-Gon Jinn in that. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Cody Murphy asks us, what color lightsaber would you have, and what is the deep metaphysical reason for said color?
I'm going to answer for you, for at least the color. I don't know about your metaphysical reason, but I know you're a green guy.
Yes, absolutely. Green lightsaber all the way. It's just one of my favorite colors. That's all. And I don't know. I like the brilliance of it, and I think it stands out more than the blue, in my opinion. So did the creators of Return of the Jedi, right? Because Luke was supposed to have a blue lightsaber, but it didn't look well during the Sarlacc pit fight. So they're like, we need something that stands out better. So they gave him a green one. Yep. So what about you, Carl? I'm going to guess blue.
You would guess correctly, my friend. Blue's just my favorite color. So, you know, I love it. It's the color of life. It's the color of calm and tranquility. So yeah, that's, I don't have a deep metaphysical reason beyond that. So just love blue.
We got a couple of quick questions from Jackson. He emailed us. I'm going to run through these real quick. These are not Star Wars related, so we're going to get through these real quick here. There are a couple things that he's interested to know if we enjoy WWE, the NBA, or heavy metal.
No to all the above.
What was that?
No to all the above.
I'm not a fan of really either of them. The heavy metal I like is usually like, you know, gigantic instruments in an orchestra.
You're such a dork. I love it.
I am such a dork. I am. Yeah. Tuba. That's heavy metal. For sports, I'm a MLB guy. I like baseball. And I've just never been around and gotten into wrestling in general. So
yeah, I mean, I liked WWF back in the day, like when Hulk Hogan was a fighter, but I haven't really liked anything since. So, and NBA, just don't care. I'm only into the NFL when it comes to professional sports. So, but yeah,
there you go. Well, thank you, Jackson, for those. Nice to get some non-Star Wars related questions in here. Although, back to Star Wars, Jeff Fishbox got a question for each of us.
There's some heavy metal for you, Jason. Listen to that tuba. Woo! So good. All right, sorry, continue.
John Williams enjoys his tuba. Just going to say, he enjoys a lot of instruments. Fishbach has a specific question for each of us. Do you want your question or my question first?
Don't care.
Okay. Mine is, Jason, what is your favorite Jar Jar moment? To be perfectly honest, it's probably in the Clone Wars. It's the episode Shadow Warrior, where he has to assume the disguise of the Gungan boss and meet with General Grievous. And just that entire scene inside the droid landing ship with General Grievous cracks me up as he's trying to delay and distract Grievous while trying not to blow his cover. Is one of my favorite Jar Jar moments of all time. That's not to say that I don't enjoy him whenever he's on screen anywhere, because I do. But that one's the one that's really kind of sitting on top at the moment.
Nice. I know the question wasn't asked to me, but I want to answer anyway, because you brought me around to love Jar Jar. And actually, I'm going to say two because they're tied. My favorite on-screen moment is when he's talking with Padme in A New Hope. A New Hope, jeez. I know nothing about Star Wars. When he's talking to Padme in Phantom Menace, and he says, warriors, we got a grand army. And the way he like thumps his chest. I just love how proud he is of his culture, even though they cast him aside. I love that pride he has for Gungan culture. And then my other favorite moment is actually his little interlude in the Aftermath trilogy, where he's kind of the jester in Theed, right? And his purpose is simply to entertain orphaned children and lost children. And it's obviously a super meta narrative, right? Like he talks about how all the adults hate him, but children love him and find great delight in him. And it's perfect for the story itself. It's obviously a reflection of fandom. And I just love that moment.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's very good. His question for you, Carl. We all love the Han torture scene in Empire Strikes Back, but I would love to know why do you enjoy it so much? Oh, and what is your favorite Embo moment?
Man, I don't want to get too into the torture question because I feel like I might need a therapist. I don't feel like there's a good way to answer that and not sound messed up. I don't know why I like it, to be completely honest. It's just, I've thought about it over the years, and he's my favorite character, and this is something that's terrible that's happening to him. I think I've always, when I say I like it, like that's almost a weird way to put it. Like I don't like torture, but there is something about the fact that he's my favorite character who has to endure something terrible that he has no control over. Right. And I in some ways, like it's a very dramatic example of this for sure. But right. Like those moments in life when things you just feel like you're being subjected to something terrible that you have no control over. Like, I don't know. I just find it relatable in that way. Like just like that moment of pure agony and there's no meaning behind it. Right. Like they never ask me any questions. Right. Like for him, there's really no meaning. Yes, we know Vader's meaning, right? He's doing this to draw Luke in. But in the moment, Han doesn't know why this is happening, and that sucks. And I just think that's so human, right? So, yeah, I don't know. That's me really trying to think about this. But I find that, like, in a weird way, relatable. So, awesome. And my favorite Embo moment is the first time we see him spring into action when he takes out the sniper. Or the spy, not the sniper, but the guy from
the scout.
The scout, yeah, for Hondo. Thank you. Gosh, I can't think of anything today. Yeah, just seeing that incredible martial art form. In my headcanon, it's Teräs Käsi. I don't know if it actually is. Maybe that's actually stated somewhere on Wikipedia, or maybe somebody else knows it. But yeah, I love that moment with Embo. So.
I'm going to answer this one too. My favorite Embo moment is when he and the other bounty hunters go up against Maul and Savage. I just think it's an awesome sequence in general. And then when they're retreating, is it Marek? Is that his?
Yeah.
his Mark picks up his hat and carries it down the hall for him. I love that.
Yeah.
So it's a good sequence.
It is.
All right, we got an email from Zachary Shatster, who sent us 2 questions. One is Star Wars, one is not. What do you think of Season 7 of the Clone Wars?
I will say I'm really enjoying the Siege of Mandalore. Also, it looks phenomenal. I mean, I really feel like this season looks like it could be like it's so cinematic, right? And that makes sense, right? Technology always gets better. These things are going to continue to look better over the years. So I'm really enjoying that. To be completely honest, the Bad Batch arc, I'll probably never watch again. That's not the type of Star Wars stories I personally enjoy. So I wasn't nuts about the Bad Batch arc. The arc that we just got with Ahsoka and the 2 sisters, I enjoyed, but I thought it could have easily just been 2 episodes rather than 4. It felt very drawn out in a way that didn't need to be. I loved the questions that it raised about Ahsoka's character, about her allegiance to what the Jedi are. I like the questions it raised about who are the Jedi in the eyes of the general public. Again, I love those questions. So I love the themes of it. I thought as an arc, it was a little longer than it needed to be. Obviously, Siege of Mandalore is just... I really hope they make this into a movie that they put into theaters. I think that'd be so fun. Right? Since they started Clone Wars with a movie, why not end it also? Right now, once they're all out, maybe this winter, since there's not a Star Wars movie coming out, put it in theaters. I think that'd be so awesome. So that's my opinions. I don't mean to be like a jerk because I know people loved Bad Batch. I just didn't. It's not the type of Star Wars stories I enjoy personally. So no shame on anyone who really enjoyed it. I just personally didn't. But I'm loving what we're getting right now. And I love Ahsoka. So the previous arc too, exploring more about her character, I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm in a similar position with Carl. I enjoyed the Bad Batch arc. I'll watch it again. It's just not my, clones. While I enjoy clones, they're not the reason I watch Star Wars or the Clone Wars. I watch Clone Wars for the Jedi. But it was really cool, and getting to see Rex's journey. That arc made me care for Rex in a way that I have never cared for Rex before. And so I really enjoyed that. Plus the scene where Anakin has his little hologram rendezvous with Padme.
Yeah, that's so great. I do love that.
It from Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's like, well, I hope you told her I said hello.
Yeah.
Is one of the best Anakin Obi-Wan moments that the show has ever created. The Ahsoka and sisters arc was it was good. It's not going to be my favorite arc for sure, but like Carl, I enjoyed it for the exploration that we're getting from Ahsoka's point of view. Where how she's trying to figure out who she is, what she's doing, what it means for her to not be a Jedi anymore, and the questions it raises on that. I do agree it probably could have been at least an episode, maybe 2 episodes shorter, because they got captured and recaptured a lot.
Yes, they did.
But I enjoyed it. And what we're getting right now in Siege of Mandalore is, bar none, probably the best Clone Wars we've ever gotten, period. And I'm so excited for the next 2 episodes. When we're recording, we still are waiting for the final 2 episodes of this arc, and I cannot wait. So, yeah. Season 7 is really good overall, but everything pales in comparison to the Siege of Mandalore that we're watching right now.
Right. So one thing, I remember this was in the animatics stage at one point where we got, I think it's an arc, weirdly enough, on Utapau, but Anakin and Obi-Wan, right? And a lot of it is Anakin dealing with Ahsoka leaving, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that would have taken place not long after she leaves. So I understand why it's not necessarily in the new season. But honestly, I would have preferred like a 2-episode Bad Batch, a 2-episode Sisters arc, and a 2-episode arc where Anakin, I feel like it would have been really cool to start with Anakin processing Ahsoka's loss, and then we end with Ahsoka's journey, right? Because especially now that we're learning her journey in the Clone Wars ends during Revenge of the Sith, I think it could be really cool to see how, right? It would just, to start this final season with it being about Anakin really feeling that loss and even feeling guilty for it. Imagine it, like, it would be a nice reminder of when he sees her again, why this is also creating all these tumultuous feelings. And then boom, we also know he goes right into Revenge of the Sith, where everything goes horrible for him. Right. I don't know. I would have really liked that arc too. But so, that's fine. So I know you can watch the animatics.
One of these days, I am still holding out hope that we're going to get every story that they planned in the Clone Wars made. I mean,
right,
I'm still kind of holding out hope.
Yeah, because it was in Clone Wars we were going to get that episode too with Cad Bane and Boba Fett.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Then we could have Embo come in. Yeah. Then we could have Embo come in and clean up their mess because he's better than both of them combined. Oh, I just made so many people mad.
Wow, Carl. Well, changing subjects, Zachary had one other question that was not Star Wars related. He asked if we watched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if you do, what was your favorite movie from it? Do you watch the MCU?
Not really. I'll be honest. I don't really care for most of the Marvel movies. But I will say I loved Spider-Man Homecoming. Loved it. It's the only one I've watched more than once. Or I think I watched Black Panther twice as well. But other than that, I haven't liked any of the Avengers movies. I didn't even see the last one. Don't plan to. So I'm just not a Marvel person. So, but that's my opinion. I did love Homecoming. But what about you? I think you like them more than I do. Which isn't hard to do. So, 'cause I'm just not a fan.
I do. I think I've seen all of them. And maybe I missed like two, but I've seen most of them. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite because I remember moments more than I remember movies. I will say, because of the buildup from all the previous movies, some of my favorite moments are from Avengers Endgame, but I don't think I would call that my favorite movie. To be honest, it's probably the original Avengers movie, just because that's when all the heroes come together and, become the team that they are. But yeah, I'd have to go back and watch them all again. There's a lot of different things that I like about the MCU, but I don't know enough about it to speak on it, to have a podcast about it, essentially. So, I'm a casual fan. I'm an invested casual fan of the MCU. So, but that's about as far as I go. But yeah, I'd say favorite moments are from Endgame. Favorite movie overall is probably the original Avengers movie. So,
nice.
Nick Bogle sent us in a Star Wars question here. He says, how has Star Wars influenced some of your life's decisions? He then gives an example. Have any of the themes or advice of the characters of Star Wars caused you to choose a certain path over another? As a college student graduating this May, I find myself wondering what Luke, Qui-Gon, Yoda, Han, or other characters would tell me to do next. So, has Star Wars influenced some of your life's decisions, Carl?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I know we've had this conversation before on the show, Jason. I mean, to me, Star Wars isn't just movies. It really isn't. And I don't mean that to say that. I mean, I understand at the end of the day that is all it is, right? But it means so much more to me, which is why it's something so powerful in my life in a way that nothing else is. I mean, even other things that I enjoy, like in nerd culture, like Batman or the Ghostbuster mythos, those are all like enjoyable entertainments. Star Wars is so much more than entertainment to me. And yeah, I mean, I would say even just most recently, the character of Rey has become an incredibly guiding force, pun intended, for some of my own decisions insofar as making those difficult choices to do what you feel you're really supposed to do. Right. And in dealing with sometimes the heartache of what that might look like. Right. I think, especially I think this is why I've come to really enjoy Last Jedi also so much, is I love her entire purpose in that movie is to find out how she fits in, right? How am I important to this story? Force Awakens, it's typical, like, until the end of that movie, she kind of refuses the call. She just, she keeps looking behind her for belonging. But finally at the end of the movie, she accepts where she's supposed to go. And now that she's accepted that there's something special about her, she's trying to figure out how she fits into everything. And I think, like, most notably in my own recent part of life, like joining a new faith tradition was a huge life-changing choice for me. I mean, it's kind of how I lost a job that I really love recently, is making this choice meant I couldn't stay at a job that I really enjoyed. And that sucked. But at the same time, I'm trying to navigate my place in the grand story of life. I knew that I had to move on. And I found a lot of strength and kind of raise conviction to do that. I think, the story of Solo has meant a lot to me since it's been out, in the sense of, not necessarily finding what you expected out of life, but finding exactly what you needed. Right. My Star Wars friends, the Star Wars fan community that I've been a part of for so long now, has been something I never expected it to be. But it's so much more than I ever hoped it could be. So yeah, I think a lot of things like that, guide me. I mean, it's something that has guided me for years is when Yoda tells Luke, the right, how will I know the good side from the bad? You will know when you're calm, at peace, right? That's literally a piece of advice I give to students often in the job that I've done, is when students you're working with college students who are actively discerning what they want to do next in life. A piece of advice I always give them is that piece of advice from Yoda, because I live by it too. Like, how do I know where to go next in life? Is, well, when I sit down and think about it, where do I feel most at peace? Where is it that I feel most at home? So things like that have influenced me a lot. Star Wars is a constant prism through which I filter the experiences of my life, which is why I just love the story so much. So yeah, those are just some brief examples for me. And as far as Nick, I mean, being a senior in college, I literally worked with seniors in colleges right up until a few days ago. I would, my encouragement would be is, who's the character journey that you identify most with, and what is that telling you? How is that trying to teach you about your own path? What is it about that character and the choices they make that inspire you? And how does that filter into what lies before you? Right. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Star Wars has, in part, shaped the career path I've chosen. It is in part responsible for me deciding to pursue the whole acting career path. I learned about making movies by watching the behind the scenes documentaries on the Star Wars movies. That's how I really started, from an early age, learning about how movies are made and what goes on in it and all that and everything like that. That just fascinates me to no end. And then when Clone Wars came out, that kind of gave me the idea, maybe I should, try and specialize as a voice actor, because voice acting is awesome. So I've got, James Arnold Taylor, Matt Lanner, Ashley Eckstein, Tom Kane, and, Padme.
Cat Tabor.
Cat Tabor. Thank you.
Yeah.
To blame for me, pursuing a voice acting career. which is now kind of taking shape as I'm reading audiobooks. So that's awesome. But yeah, no, Star Wars has indirectly and then more directly really kind of shaped the path of my career choice, weirdly enough. And that's been pretty exciting. And also, sometimes if I'm, really questioning things, I sit back and go, am I really letting a fictional movie kind of dictate where I'm going? And then I sit there for a minute and say, well, it lines up with everything else in my life, so sure. But it has definitely been a source of direct and indirect inspiration for well over a decade as far as my career is concerned. And honestly, one of the initial driving forces when I was like, the first thing I thought about when I was like, yeah, I do want to become an actor is I want to be in a lightsaber battle on screen. That was something that was one of the first thoughts after I decided that's what I wanted to be, was an actor. And I was like, I want to be in a lightsaber battle. I don't care if I'm just an extra that gets cut down in 2 seconds. I want to be in one. So that was something that's been in my mind for quite a while. So
yeah, something I've gone back to a lot just since last Celebration, right? When we had Stephen Colbert kind of give the opening monologue before the episode 9 panel. I'll never forget when he said Star Wars is something, he said it's an escape that inspires. And I've always felt like that is so perfectly the way to capture the truth of Star Wars from my own lived experience as well. Is it is an escape. It's a form of entertainment that does allow you to escape, normalcy for a couple hours or however long you're watching. But what makes it especially powerful is that within that escape, you're also inspired, right? There are lots of forms of just kind of fun entertainment that allow you to escape. And there's a goodness in and of that of itself, right? But Star Wars also inspires, and that's the thing. I mean, it's probably why Empire continues to be my favorite movie too. The heart and soul of that movie is, you got to believe, right? You've got to believe that these things are possible. You got to believe that the things that you dream of for yourself can become real if you're willing to work at it. And that's the experience George Lucas had making these films, and I think that's the greatest gift that Star Wars offers anyone that's a fan is how can you make the dreams of your truest self become realized? Right? Because that's what all these characters are ultimately searching for and working towards. And I think Star Wars is a great vehicle through which we can realize that for ourselves. So I love that question. So hopefully that was helpful too, Nick.
Izzy, also at the Bitatron, on Twitter, sent us an email with a couple of questions here. Here's just a very basic, easy question, Carl. So, what does Star Wars mean to you in a meaningful sense?
Jesus.
Just hit us with the widest shotgun blast you can, Izzy. Oof.
Read it one more time, please.
What does Star Wars mean to you in a meaningful sense?
I mean, to be fair, I think I kind of just said it. Right. I don't want to say the same thing over and over again, but I think it really does. It inspires me. It's something that helps me to feel creative. It gives me energy and life. And there's something about that story every time I'm enmeshed in it or enmeshed in the culture of it. I just feel more alive. I feel like creating something. I mean, literally tonight while I was working on a project for next week for Star Wars Day, I was sitting in the middle of my Star Wars room listening to Star Wars music because that's where I feel creative. I wish I was an artist. I wish I could draw or paint or anything like that. Because I always have these fun Star Wars scenes I'd love to see realized in, an artistic form, but I don't have that skill. So instead I sit down and do other things with it. But at the end of the day, what's great about it is it makes me feel creative. And I think that's really meaningful. And when I think about Star Wars, especially with something like this, Jason, like doing this podcast, is I also think about how can I use Star Wars to hopefully make people's days just a little better, right? Whether that's through folks that listen to the show or other fans that I know that like Star Wars, is how can I always interact in such a way that Star Wars hopefully adds to your life. So,
yeah.
What about you?
No, it's going to be kind of similar. It is a complete and total inspiration for so many things. And when I start getting a little dry on, creative inspiration for other projects or things I'm working on, I go back to Star Wars, just because it sparks my imagination. And the earliest memory I have of watching Star Wars is just the earliest impression, I should say, I have of watching Star Wars is just that my imagination blew up exponentially. It became exponentially bigger than anything I had ever thought it could be when I first saw Star Wars. And Star Wars, because it is such a big, vast universe with so many stories and characters and situations, has always been a source of inspiration and recharging for my imagination. So if I'm if I'm losing my imagination or it's getting harder to access, I go back to Star Wars and it charges it back up and things like that. And so, yeah, that's why Star Wars is a very meaningful, important thing for me. I'm going to combine her next question with a question from Craig Ashton on Facebook. Her question was, would you be Jedi, Sith, Rebel, or Smuggler in the Star Wars universe? And Craig asked me specifically if I were given the opportunity to voice a character in a new Star Wars series, would I want to be a Jedi, Sith, Smuggler, etc.? So, Carl, if you were in the Star Wars galaxy, what would you?
Oh, definitely a Jedi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. If I was going into the Star Wars universe, I would totally be a Jedi. However, if I was voicing a character, well, I'd love to be a Jedi. I would take anything that's fun and memorable. One of the most memorable characters in all of Clone Wars animation, Star Wars animation, is Hondo. So a role like that would just be absolutely a blast to do. But yeah, a Jedi preferably. But I'll take anything. Hear that, Lucasfilm? I'll take anything you got. Anything. I'll be Stormtrooper number 7. Anyway, Izzy has one more question from us. Where and with who would you set up your life in the galaxy far, far away? Well, I'm not going to Dagobah. I'll visit you there, sir. But if I had a choice, I'd probably live on Naboo or Alderaan. Yeah. I don't know with who, though. I mean, if I was a Jedi, though, I'd be in the Jedi Temple, but that wouldn't be my choice.
Yeah, I would probably... I'm trying to think. There's a part of me that says Coruscant. There's also a big part of me that says Naboo, because I wouldn't want to live in Otto Gunga, but I would sure love a weekend visit every now and then.
Yeah.
Actually, no, screw that. I know where I'd live. Endor. I would live on Endor in a heartbeat.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I would live on Endor.
Yeah, and I'll come and
With
we'll just
Logray.
stick to the forests.
Yep, I'd live with Logray. That's it. So I have been obsessed with the Ewoks for a while now. Specifically the cartoon. I think it's phenomenal. I gotta thank my friend Mike for helping me really delve into it. But in the Ewok cartoon from the 1980s, Tebow is Logray's apprentice and learning how to be the new shaman after Logray's gone. And Logray legit uses the Force. There's no doubt about it. They just don't call it that. So I would love to live on Endor and study under the great shaman Logray.
That's awesome. Alrighty. Jeffrey Beaumont has a very interesting question. He says, I've had a debate on this question. The premise is a little bit dark, but that's all right. He says, yeah, your mind is failing. Nothing can stop it, but one scene from Star Wars can be inserted for you to remember. What scene do you want to remember forever? My scene is Twin Sons, young Luke looking at the suns and Maestro Williams tugging at our heart. So that's Jeffrey's moment. What about you, Carl? Do you have one?
That's tough.
I've got two.
You've got two? Go ahead.
Yeah, I cannot cut it down. I'm sorry. Number one is I'm a Jedi like my father before me. That is probably one of the single most profound statements uttered in Star Wars, and I love it so much. And the second one is just a selfish fun one, and that's the Jedi charging into battle across the sand of the Geonosis arena pit. So that's just an awesome image that is emblazoned in my mind anyways. So I think it'd be very difficult for that to leave. So
Nice.
I can't cut it down any further than that. So I got two.
I would have to say then if it could only be one, it'd probably be the last scene in Empire Strikes Back then. Because I would want that message to live with me forever, which is you can lose everything but still not be defeated, right? You can lose all the battles, but doesn't mean you lost the war. And right, it's that moment where you have these people clinging to each other and believing that they're not done. So yeah, definitely that last moment is Lando and Chewie are saying goodbye, and Luke and Leia are holding each other, believing that Han can be brought back and the fight's not over. So I think that would be my scene.
Awesome. All right, we got two more, Carl.
Let's do it.
This one is from our good buddy Jim Capron, or Jim Urso, as we like to call him. He says, in an age where criticism, sarcasm, and cynicism are prevalent in fandom, how do you maintain your love and passion for things in Star Wars that are really important to you, but aren't the most popular, and or it seems like everyone else has the opposite opinion as you? As Carl knows, I've implemented some of my own techniques to help with this, but I'm always open to try any suggestions. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. To be perfectly honest, Jim, one of the ways that I keep my love and stuff is my Star Wars social media presence is very small. I'm not on a lot. And so I sit with my music and my movies, and I talk to Carl every week. And you guys, who interact with the podcast, but honestly, that's one of the big ways. I've always been a little stubborn though about things I like, even back, when the prequels were, the butt of every single joke, and I loved them. I was the one that was sitting out there in the street corner defending them, essentially, the digital street corner, defending them for anyone who cared to listen. But I've always been stubborn about what I like. And, it takes someone to, give a very impassioned and, well thought out argument like Carl does, to get me to change my opinions on things. But usually what Carl does is he just enhances my opinions on things. So, but, I don't know. I've always sort of been a little off step with whatever the trend is, the trendy topics, anything like that. I've never been like hip. So I'm kind of used to having sort of the odd opinion out on things, not just Star Wars, but a lot of other things too. So I'm just kind of used to that, and I've kind of grown up with that. So that's part of it. But honestly, a lot of it is I have to take breaks from the social media stuff. Like I can't just sit in it all the time because it's just depressing to sit there and watch it all just unfold ad nauseum. And to be honest, I don't watch any Star Wars YouTube stuff. I don't, unless I'm looking for fun, tribute videos or things like that, just music videos and things like that, I don't watch any of the YouTube commentaries. I stick to Facebook and Twitter because that's where we do our stuff on the podcast. But I try and keep that at arm's length because I like my thoughts and my opinions on these things, and I don't want people just, taking a dump on all of it. So I don't know. I don't have anything else other than that. How about you, Carl?
Yeah, I think it's it's very similar to you, Jason. I mean, I use it obviously more than you do, the social media stuff, but yeah, I often have to just limit my time on it. Because sometimes I can't help but wonder why Star Wars fans are fans of Star Wars when they spend all their energy hating it. So, everybody has their right to dislike things, for something to not work, for something that really bothers you and you think it really fell short. Right. And my experience of this has been more in just the last few years than ever before. I mean, I was a kid when the prequels came out, so I wasn't really aware of the backlash it was getting. So I just, I try to stay off. When I am on, I've been muting people often right now. I've muted people that I even consider, I shouldn't say this because it's kind of mean, but I've muted people that I consider friends. Because again, like I don't need to hear constantly why something sucks. So, or even conversely, why something is the best and you're wrong if you don't agree, right? Like those sentiments just drive me up the wall.
Yes.
It's easy, I think, in those spaces to get really annoyed and become very cynical. So the way I respond to that is there's two things I do. One is I'll type out a long, like angry response, but not send it. But just to at least put it out there, I delete the thing I was going to say, and then I mute the person. And just kind of try to stay off of it for a little bit. But on the positive side, right? Like I think those are the kind of the negative things you have to maybe do to distance yourself, right? It's just literally taking time away from it. Because I also have the advantage of having really good friends that also love Star Wars, and friends right here in Boston with me. I mean, obviously, like you said, I have you to talk to every week. I've got a great crew in my buddy Greg and my friend Ben and my friend Mike. These three guys, like, I can text them about Star Wars anytime. And even though all four of us have very different opinions about Star Wars, we're all super like respectful. We all love different parts of Star Wars, and respect that. So I think that's the biggest thing is I always stay positive because when I'm really excited about something, I know who I can talk to about it. Right. Like who I'd, if there's something I really love in Star Wars that I know one of my friends doesn't care for, I'm not going to text them about that or want to talk to them about it because they don't want to talk about it. And I respect that. I think, again, if you have the advantage of just having close friends that also really like Star Wars, just spend more time talking to them. I think that's the best thing rather than trying to like argue with people online because it's pointless. And that's not even just Star Wars, right? I mean, that goes for anything this day and age, right? People love to just be bullies online because it's an easy place to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's at the end of the day, like all these things we were just talking about of how Star Wars means so much to us, right? I cherish it so much that I also realize that that's a gift that I want to share with certain people. And I'm not going to just put it out there for anyone. And like when people, like I'll put something up about liking something in particular about Star Wars that obviously someone else really hates and they feel the need to have to be a jerk about it. I just delete the comment and silence them. You know what I mean? Because you also have that luxury too. So,
yeah.
But
I'm going to add to this. I'm going to definitely piggyback on what Carl's saying. Find yourself a community of a few people, a handful of people that respect you for who you are and like you for who you are. first and foremost, and then also like Star Wars in a similar way that you do, and talk with them. If you need to take a break from the larger social media world, you go in and you talk with them. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with, shutting your phone off and just sitting with your favorite soundtrack on in the dark, or watching your favorite scene on repeat or something like that. Go back to the source of your love and your enjoyment, and say, yeah, it's still here. But yeah, definitely get a community, a select little group that you really respect and appreciate them. But also that you're not in complete lockstep with, because it's nice to have different ideas and opinions and things like that. And I hope we can be that for some of you people out there. We do our very best to be a safe place and a respectful place for people to express their issues and things like that. We have the mic, so we're going to talk about what we like. But we're not here to, disparage anything, and we're not perfect. We have our problems, and sometimes we vocalize them in ways that we shouldn't. But it's one of those things where, on the whole, we really want to be a place where everybody can feel welcome and can have that place where it's just the enjoyment of Star Wars is what matters. There isn't one Star Wars that everybody should love. Everyone's got their own opinion, because it's a subjective fictional universe, ladies and gentlemen. There's no one right way to do this. But yeah. So anyway, we got one last question from Eliezer on Facebook, and this is probably the most important question we're going to ask tonight, Carl. Eliezer asks, "Why do you guys rock?"
Because I listen to Nickelback. Duh. pretty easy, really.
I should have expected that. I should have expected that response, Carl. Thank you so much.
They're so good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing rocks harder than Nickelback.
Oh, no.
How the hell do we wind up like this? And why weren't we able to see the signs that we missed? And try to turn the tables, yeah.
Oh, man.
Should just start a Nickelback podcast now.
Where
I just listen to the songs and sing them like this. Yeah.
That works too. I'll tell you why Carl rocks. Carl rocks because he is someone who does things 120% all the time, and loves Star Wars in a way that is so pure and genuine, and brings such a really fascinating opinion on things with his spiritual takes and things like that. This is why Carl rocks, ladies and gentlemen. Carl is an awesome guy, and I love podcasting with him. So that's why we've been doing this for, it'll be 9 years in October. Jeez, Carl, it's my long relationship is with this podcast. But that's why Carl rocks, just a little bit, and I'm just scratching the surface.
I'm very embarrassed, but also thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Yeah,
I don't.
No, I put a post on my personal Facebook today because obviously I'm looking for a new job now, which sucks with what's going on globally. But as I was just kind of updating my resume, I do have the podcast on there. I mean, it's towards the bottom because it's not exactly relevant to the type of work I'm doing. But it's the longest thing I've ever done in my life. So, I mean, like you said, it'll be 9 years later this year. And the question I pose is, why doesn't Star Wars need chaplains? I mean, I'd be great at it. But no, I'll bounce that back at you then, Jason. Is I think the reason you rock is because you're just so damn fun. That's the thing I've always enjoyed about doing this podcast with you. It was my first experience of you. It's like, this is a fun guy that loves to play Star Wars. And that's the thing. So often when I come to podcasts with you, I just feel like I'm coming to play Star Wars. Like I did as a kid. I mean, it's a totally different way of doing it, but, yeah. And you have such playful energy. That is also very pure. And it makes it a lot of fun. And yeah, it's been a blast all along. So
awesome. We are both very embarrassed to answer that question for ourselves.
I wasn't.
So,
do you not remember Nickelback?
I mean, well,
I mean, come on.
yeah.
Don't they remind you of anything? Because this is how you remind me.
I was out of living like a blind man, yeah. I'm sick aside without a sense of feeling, and this is how you remind me.
Cue the drums. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not sorry. Why did I say that?
No, you're not sorry, and don't be. Carl is the only reason I know any Nickelback lyrics, by the way.
You're welcome.
This is just Carl, though, and that's why he cracks me up. So,
Anakin listens to Nickelback. Like when he's flying around in his star cruiser, he loves those like overly dramatic power songs.
Well, I mean, especially like Attack of the Clones Anakin listens to Nickelback.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Attack of the Clones Anakin, Oh, God, I think we've just inspired someone to make some sort of Nickelback, Attack of the Clones Anakin video.
Yeah, I was just thinking of, man, I think we need to do a podcast at some point where we just pick Nickelback songs that embody each Star Wars character. So.
The only one picking songs on that one, sir. I don't know enough.
Well, you got time. You can grab their discography. So.
Sure. I'll get right on that. Oh man. So that's all the questions we got, Carl.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for writing those in and asking the questions. They were super fun to respond to. I had a great time doing that.
Yeah.
So since you were kind enough to give us such a nice gift with all these questions, we have two things for you next week, starting on Star Wars Day. Like we said, Star Wars Day is a day we all love as Star Wars fans, right? And I think what it means to us, it probably changes every year. But I think this is a year where we could really use it. We could use the fun, right? And I think even Star Wars property itself is giving us a gift by, giving us the final episode of Clone Wars on May the 4th, rather than, having us wait till the end of the week. We're also getting Rise of Skywalker on May the 4th on Disney Plus. And the new Mandalorian docuseries is coming out on Monday, May the 4th, right? So we are getting inundated with Star Wars presence on Monday for May the 4th. And I really do, I really think that in part that's because of everything that's just going on, right? We need spaces to just have fun.
Yes.
So something we've alluded to for a couple of weeks now. This idea kind of came to me back in March before the pandemic. Remember the world then when you could see people and hug them, and go to things.
I miss that world.
I do too. By the way, on May 16th, my buddy Greg was kind enough to take me as his +1 to see the Empire Strikes Back in concert at the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Of course, that is now canceled, but I'm so bummed that I'm missing out on that. But anyway, back in March when we were putting together the This Is Madness tournament, if you've been part of the show for at least a little while, you've probably picked up on the fact that Star Wars music is one of my favorite attributes of Star Wars. And I thought it would just be so fun to take all the major Star Wars theme songs and have a bracket of letting people just vote on their favorite Star Wars songs each day for the month of May. So that's what we've done. We've come up with 32 different theme songs from Star Wars, whether they're character themes or romance themes or action themes. So we pulled from pretty much all the major properties. Obviously all the movies. We did Rebels, Clone Wars, We did Mandalorian. We did not do Resistance, to be fair. I don't really know the music in that. I don't even know if it's on any sort of release, to be honest with you.
I don't think so,
think
but
that it is either. Yeah. So basically, we went through each of the film scores and just pulled out the major concert themes for most of them. And then we did kind of the same with everything else. So we have 32 different theme songs. Again, I'm just throwing them randomly into a bracket. There's no seeding or anything like that, because how do you seed something that is literally purely subjective? So it'll just be something fun to do every day. Like normal with Twitter, we'll just do a poll every day that you can vote on. Since that polling option has been removed from Facebook, I'm just going to make a quick little Google Doc form that I'll share on our Facebook every day as well, so that folks on Facebook can also participate. So yeah, be looking forward to that. Also, like we said, Musical May, we're basically going to be doing top 5 episodes each week, but what'll be different is we'll be doing different types of musical top 5s. So for instance, our first week next week, we are doing top 5 Star Wars non-movie songs. So this can be anything from a video game, the TV shows, anything like that goes for that first top 5. I'll just hint that later in the month, the one I'm very excited about, because it's going to be so fun, is top 5 source songs from Star Wars. So things like Lofty Neck, the Cantina Band. It's going to be your favorite jizz music, whatever it might be.
It's those jizz whalers.
Those jizz whalers, you know what I mean? So I'm so excited to be doing Star Wars music all for the month of May. Again, I really hope that in some way, shape, or form we can get David Collins to join the show sometime in the month. I'm not planning on it, but if you're listening to this and you know in any way how to get in touch with David W. Collins more directly than I've had any luck with, please let me know. I'd love to get him on the show. He's probably my favorite Star Wars mind out there. And it's because he understands the music so well. But yeah, so be looking forward to that the entire month of May. The other thing that we've got coming for you, this is something I made today just for fun. If any of you use Instagram, something that's really popular on Instagram right now is the 30-day music challenge, where it has each day you get to pick a different song that merits some sort of
connection to whatever the topic.
Thank you. I'm struggling with these words. Yeah, right. Like one day was like a song that makes you happy, a song that makes you sad, a song to drive to, like things like that. So I've created a 30-day Star Wars challenge. So every day you can answer some really simple, fun questions about Star Wars. So I'm going to share that on our social media. I encourage you, if you have an Instagram, share it in your Instagram story, and encourage other friends to do the same. So I'm going to drop that as well on Monday for May the 4th. So we've got a music bracket tournament coming for you and just a fun daily 30-day Star Wars challenge. So hopefully you'll participate as much as you want. Share it with whomever you think would enjoy it. This is meant to be fun, so have fun with it.
Yeah. And Carl, are you doing anything specific for Star Wars Day this year?
Let's see. I'll probably start the day with some good old Star Wars music. So the big thing I'm doing Star Wars Day is I've got a book club going with Joe Hogan, who's obviously a good friend of the show, who's done all of our artwork over the years. With Joe Hogan and a couple other guys, we've been doing a book club. We started a little over a month ago. We did Labyrinth of Evil last month. And we all just did the Revenge of the Sith novel, which, oh my God, do I love that book. So we're going to be doing our book club of Revenge of the Sith on May the 4th in the evening. But during the day, I'm going to be listening to the Star Wars radio drama, because I finally got them on the hard copy release of it. So yeah, just playing around with that. Probably watch some Ewoks episodes, because I love those. I'm sure at some point I'll watch a Star Wars movie. It seems Star Wars Day, I usually watch Empire Strikes Back, not going to lie.
Well, I'm going to kick things off with final episode of Clone Wars.
Oh, good point. Yes, obviously I will do that first thing. Good point.
And then I will probably then immediately rewatch the whole Siege of Mandalore arc, to be perfectly honest.
Nice.
Just to get them all together.
Yeah.
I have been sort of waiting to go back and rewatch these episodes because I want to experience them all in a row again, as fresh as possible. So I've only watched each of the episodes once so far, which is taking a lot of self-control on my part. But I'm going to watch each of them, and then once they're all out, I'm going to watch them all together and kind of just see them as they flow together as a movie, because like legit, they are making this a movie. There was no, newscaster guy at the beginning of this last episode. If you remember if I remember correctly, it just went right into the episode.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So there's no newsreel. So this is designed to be a movie watched all together. So right. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So, but then I'll probably just listen to Star Wars music and have fun with all the other Star Wars stuff that we're putting out this year. I'll probably do some other stuff, but I haven't decided yet. I've just got time.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah,
it's not to go out and do anything with anybody though.
Yeah. So last year, I mean, I had a huge Star Wars Day party with tons of friends came over. It's such a good time. I decorated the entire apartment Star Wars themed. It was so fun. So it stinks that we can't all just get together with friends to celebrate. But again, like that's the joy of having things like Skype or Zoom or whatever, right? Like we do have ways of connecting and watching something together, talking about stuff together. I know there'll be a lot of that. So yeah, if any of you have anything fun planned explicitly or something you think others might enjoy doing for their Star Wars Day, be sure to let us know.
Absolutely. And Carl, if they want to let us know about any of their Star Wars Day plans, or if they want to watch out and participate in any of the fun events that we've got planned for Star Wars Day next week, where can people get in contact with us?
Well, like I said, we are on Twitter at Wampa's Lair. We're on Facebook at Wampa's Lair Podcast, and you can always email us at wampaslairpodcast@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, segment out of this episode and get ready for Musical May.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you everyone so much for listening to this episode of the Wampa's Lair podcast. It's been episode number 380. It's Wampa time. For Carl, I'm Jason, and we'll see you next time here in the Wampa's Lair.